So I'd like to welcome you to talk about Pinewood Derby. I love Pinewood Derby. It's a blast. I have enjoyed doing Pinewood Derby cars with, well, myself as a kid. I've really enjoyed doing them with my kids. That was probably the most fun I've had, and I'm still having since my youngest is a Weeblo Scout right now. So I've been having a lot of fun with him, but it's always a challenging time. Especially in, say my den, for example. I have a mix of a den of people who have all the supplies and materials to do their own Pinewood Derby cars and those that don't. So, what are some of the basics of the Pinewood Derby, and how can we go about helping our families do this? And kind of what are some steps along this? So, I'm going to be switching over to a PowerPoint, so you don't have to look at me this whole time to show some kind of neat and interesting things. And I even have something to share in the chat room as we're going along. But let me bring this up. Okay, so Pinewood Derby, we're going to talk about from the beginning of that thing to the end. And this is a great part as far as, like I said, for not just our unit as a whole, but our dens or just the individual families working with this. So let me get on the slide there. Okay, so tools of the trade. What are the things that we need to do a Pinewood Derby car to go from this little block right here to make it to a full functioning car? Well, you'll need things like a coping saw. This is a very small, it's not small. The saw is about the size of your hand, has a small blade, very thin blade going through here. Sanding blocks. Now, you could take sandpaper wrapped around a piece of wood. You can also go and get these sponge type sanding blocks, which do kind of help get some of the contours, and we'll talk more about those in a minute. There's graphite powder, there's the weights, and then we have the inside of the box that you get with the Pinewood Derby car. There's your block of wood, your axles, and then your wheels. And that has everything that you need to make your Pinewood Derby car. So let's start in the beginning and work our way to the end. So if you can dream it, you can build it. And this is one of the first things I want to send you. So the very first thing I do with my scouts in my den or whatever, or my kids, is we set up a template for it. We design what the car is going to look like. And I just sent you in the chat room this template right here so that you could print this out and hand it to your scouts. This might be part of your den meeting. It might be something you just send home with them because they want to work on it. Because a lot of fun is working on this. And from there, it has the different points of view, right? This is a side, top, the other side, back, front, or you could say front, back, whichever works for you. And trace out what they want it to look like, and have multiple copies of this. And of course, maybe you do it with traced out on a square, but this generally, when it prints out on a sheet of paper, is the approximate size and dimensions of a Pinewood Derby car, which really helps out by having the right shapes. Now, part of this, when you're talking to your scouts, because for some people, this will be the very first time that they have ever worked with a piece of wood, much less built a car. Things that they want to consider is the aerodynamics. And the aerodynamics is, of course, of how the air is going to hit it with the resistance. A bit of a wedge shape, keeps the air moving right up and along, lower profile in the front. And of course, the big old block of wood, or sometimes known as the butter car, hits wood there and adds a little bit of resistance to it. So, it's an important difference in there. But, there's a wide variety of shapes and designs. Now, if you're looking at scouts that are really having a rough time with this, Google it, right? Pinewood Derby cars, and it'll come up with hundreds and hundreds of images of different types of Pinewood Derby cars to give them an idea of what to build. They don't have to do that one, but it can at least give them a starting point. And sometimes when they're maybe thinking of a theme, like maybe your scouts are really into Minecraft, there are whole cars, dozens and dozens and dozens that I've seen that were designed around Minecraft, Pokemon, scouting, animals, food, whatever their interests may be. That's really what it should be. This is all about fun. It really is not about who wins and who loses. That's a very, very minimal part of this. It's really about the fun and learning the skills of woodworking. So our next part of this is cut it out. Now, two real main ways of cutting this thing out. One is the coping saw. You have the design traced right out onto the car and you cut it, and then You'll find some people who end up using the scroll saw, high power tool, plugged in usually, with the proper safety equipment, right? With any of these things that we're doing, we want to teach our scouts proper safety equipment. So goggles, aprons, gloves, things along that line. Now I can tell you two main ways here. Two main ways here are you can, give them the stuff and walk them through on how to do it. I've also had people come over to my house, right? Because I have all these tools set up, and you could bring the tools, right? Maybe if your meeting place allows it, and that's where you got to be watch out for, because like at a school, there may be concerns about some of the tools that you may bring into the school and may not be allowed. Other places may not have restrictions. On the other hand, the BSA has restrictions, like Cub Scouts using power tools is a no-no, right? Cub Scouts don't use power tools. So what could go on is, if there's a big amount of cutting to do here, you could shave it down a little bit for them, and then give them the coping saw to work on the littler pieces, cutting it down a little bit more. It kind of works what works for you. Maybe the parent at the house or the guardian who's working with them, same thing. If they're asking, well, can I use the power tool? Sure, absolutely. This is one of those things that they should be working on together. Should the scout have a bit of the saw to start working and learning how to do it? Absolutely. But does the entire thing need to be done by hand? No, this is supposed to be a scout and their parent, guardian, whoever it may be, working together. It's a chance for them to bond and do an activity together. And we really want to encourage that. In the cases that they don't have it, this is an opportunity to work with the scout and show them how to do those types of things. So we do want to encourage that. Okay. So shape it and paint it. So the next part is, once we've got the rough cutting down as close as to the line as you can for your design, then we want to sand it down. Now, again, there's the high-powered sander. Cub Scouts, again, cannot use power tools. So the other one is, again, this is a sanding block that's going on up there. All it is a piece of wood with sandpaper wrapped around it. And of course, I showed you the sanding sponge there at the beginning, and that could end up being used. Either one of those is fine, and can be used, and they're cheap. It's easy enough to bring a bunch of them to your den meeting. Or again, if you come out, you have them out to your workshop if you have one, and make it as a den meeting at your workshop with including the parents, because I try to bring out my Cub Scouts with their parents, guardians, whoever, to come out and work right there. And I work with them, and I have the parent or guardian work right there with them as well. Because again, I want them to work and learn together. It's a great opportunity. So after that, we get it all shaped and designed. At some point in here, we're going to be looking at painting. Now, the question is, do you paint it before or after you put the weights in? Once we talk of weights, I'll let you decide on that. But at some point, realize painting, and there really shouldn't be much for you to do on this one. As far as adults go, you might need to provide the paint for people who don't have access to these types of tools. And again, you could make it a den activity where everybody comes to the den meeting. You got a variety of paints out, and they're painting their designs on there. Paintbrushes, different types of paint, different ideas for designs, even tracing out the design onto the car before they just start willy-nilly painting it. All good things. There is something to be said about staging the painting certain colors first, letting them dry, then coming back and painting the next one, so that less chance of bleed over on it. But again, let the scout go with whatever they want. The adults get hung up on the color, the themes, whatever it may be. Let the scout have fun. And if they want to have it whatever color, a multitude of colors, or all of a sudden it's green French fries, who cares? If they're enjoying their car and having fun and learning and picking up those tools to use them and be comfortable and happy with what they're doing, that's the most important thing, is that they're having fun and learning from this experience. Okay, wheels. So we got to get those wheels attached at some point in here. So as we saw in the earlier picture, you have the nails, which are the axles, they're nails, that come with the Pinewood Derby car. They also have the wheels that are in there. Now, when you go to attach these, there's a groove right on that box. Let me go back here, and right in here, there's a groove at either end of the car. And you can see the groove right up in here of the Pinewood. Those are already cut in there. So you don't have to make those at all. They're already there. It's really generally about as hard as pushing it in. You usually push them in, take a light hammer, and tap it in. You might want to have a piece of a metal or a punch that you can tap in to help it get in there without hitting on the wheel. The wheels that you have, piece of plastic, you can buy a variety. They come with usually just a standard black wheel, but if you wanted to go to the Scout shop, or you wanted to go to a Hobby Lobby or a Michael's or any other craft store and buy other colored wheels, they got a wide variety. You can. Wheels are wheels are wheels. The difference is you can't shape the wheels, right? You can't. There's no sanding on the sides, no angling them. The only thing that you're allowed to do is sometimes you'll see right down the center is a line from where it was molded. The mold was poured. You can sand off that line, but that's it. You can't shape or alter the wheel in any way. Now, as you're getting ready to put these in here, right inside the wheel well, and we'll talk more about it in a later picture, but graphite, it's a dry lubricating agent. So think about your pencil, right? The pencil is graphite, lead, right? It's not actual lead, it's graphite. We use that to go in there, and it helps cut down on the friction of the wheel spinning. And you want to have graphite. Now, again, you don't need each person to have a tube of the graphite. Usually one tube goes a pretty long way for multiple people. Get it inside of the wheel well area, right in the hole that the nail goes into, your axle goes into, and a dab will do you. Get it in there, get the axle, get it spun around quite a bit, have it attached, get it in there. Just be careful because it makes a mess. It's graphite, it's pencil lead. Okay, weight of the car. Overall weight is 5 ounces. So this is one of those things when you have all your pieces and painted and all of that. And this is an important reason why you might want to wait on your you might want to do your painting before your weights, but choices are yours. Is everything adds weight, and 5 ounces is not a lot of weight. Not a lot of weight at all. All these pictures are generally more than that. So your car itself coming out of the box is generally, I think it's roughly about 2 ounces, maybe a little bit more. So that gives you a little weight to play with on there. Add on the paint, adds on weight to it. When you attach the wheels and add even the graphite powder adds on weight. It's amazing. Then you got to figure out where you're going to put the weights and how you're going to attach them. And they come a wide variety of ways. These can be glued on. Some of them have sticky tape on the back, almost like a double-sided tape that you peel it and stick it on. Things like this are breakable. You usually can break it by hand or a pair of pliers on there to pull and snap it and attach it. This one is designed with holes so it can be screwed on. And then any kind of a kitchen scale. Now, generally, most packs have the scale. And wherever the Pinewood Derby races are going on, have the scale. And that's the scale that needs to be used. 5 ounces is 5 ounces. It's not 5.01. It's 5 ounces. So be prepared. If you're right on that line, you might need to be ready to take a bit of weight off. So don't completely cover it all up. I've been at a lot of Pinewood Derby races to see people shaving the weight off. This is usually a pretty soft metal that can get shaved a little bit. I've seen people whittle onto their cars to shave off some of the weight, but a good thing is to have a scale. I know I keep that scale around when I'm doing my den meetings or when I have people coming over to my house for the workshop, and we're weighing those cars constantly to make sure we stay on there. And I bring my scale, even at our den meeting, the Cub Master walks around with his scale just before, or I should say the pack scale, not his scale, the pack scale, just before races to make sure everyone's getting their cars ready. If they need to do any fine-tune adjustment for that ahead of time. So there's the weights. Now, whoops. One more thing is, where can the weights go? Anywhere. You can put them anywhere. You can use them as part of the design, and it doesn't have to just be weights. I've seen scouts who've attached steering, little mini steering wheels or parts out of their Lego kits. Right? Cars, Lego kits, boats, things like that. There are kits that let you put on things from the lights, which lights, batteries, those have weight to them. I've seen like the little Lego characters or other things put onto the car. Again, it adds weight, so you can use them and watch where you're using them at, as far as how it may impact how it performs. So general rules. Now, I say general rules because these are part of your Pinewood Derby kit. They're in there. Most district races follow them. Most packs follow them. But make sure that you've checked with if your pack is doing a race, make sure that you've checked the rules for the pack, that make sure they're not changing at all. If you are going to a district Pinewood Derby race, make sure that you've checked their rules. Generally, the pack follows the district, so on and so forth. But again, it's always important to check. These are general rules. So the car won't exceed 5 ounces. Overall length of the car won't exceed 7 inches, which, the block's already there. The overall width of the car won't exceed 2 3/4 inches. Again, there. The car must have 1 3/4 inch clearance between the wheels. The car must have 3/8 clearance underneath the body so it does not rub on the track. That's very important with weights. A lot of people, and I think I have a picture to show later on, put the weights under the car. They'll actually, and you got to watch it, because if you just stick it to the bottom of the car, it may rub along the track. And one, you don't want that to happen, because then your car is the one that sits right at the top. When they release it, it doesn't go, or it just drags all the way down, right? The other thing is it won't be allowed on the track if it doesn't have the clearance to go in there. So then you'll have to rework it. So some people, if they put it on the bottom, they carve out the underside and stick it on in. The official Pinewood block must be used. The block may be shaped in any way that desired. Excuse me. Pre-made cars will not be allowed. Now, the only thing I'm going to say to this is with our Lions, they use wedge cars, so that's already made in a wedge shape. They don't carve them past that. They just use the wedge shape that's there. It's attaching the wheels, weights, and decorating. Official BSA wheels must be used. The wheels may not be cut, drilled, beveled, or rounded. You may remove the seams and imperfections from the wheels. The axles may be polished and lubricated with graphite only. So in other words, you can't use any kind of a liquid type thing or anything along those lines. The powdered graphite only. Scouts are to make their cars with adult supervision. A scout is trustworthy. Now that's huge. And I got more on this one later on, but this is a scouting event. It's for the scouts. It's not ours. I don't make my kid's car. He makes his car and I assist him. I am not in a competition with other scouts. I am not in a competition with other adults. I am in a competition to have fun with my son. And, it was have fun with my daughter when her and I were making cars. So let your scout do the car that they want. If that thing is going to come in last because it was a block of butter, as long as they have fun doing it, that's really the important part of this. Only powder, and again, how important was the graphite? Only powdered lubricant graphite can be used, no liquids, and then the Lions must race on the wedge kits. So those are generalized rules, but again, be sure to check with your pack and the district wherever you're racing at may be. So some pro tips. And I gotta say, when I was researching this a little bit, because I was always looking for a little bit more, I found something that was interesting, is this one right here, bake the block. 250 degrees for approximately 2 hours. And I'm here going, now, why is that? And I got to tell you, I actually found that was on Scouting Magazine on one of their Pinewood Derby areas. The reason being is, for those of you who do a lot of woodworking out there will know that the wood holds moisture in it. Moisture inside of the wood adds weight, and that weight's just throughout the entire car. So if you bake the wood, you can get the moisture out of there, and then it decreases the approximately 2 ounces of the car. And then you can put the weights where you want to give you whatever type of better advantage you think the weights in that area would be. So interesting. I got to tell you, never tried it. You haven't seen any rule that says you can't do it. And that was in Scouting Magazine. So that was kind of an interesting one. Weights near the back, and people have different opinions. This is just some of the main tips that you'll find throughout is weights near the back are heavier and pushes the car forward. So it's a lot easier to push than to pull. So more weights near the front is pulling the car forward. The weights in the back are pushing it forward. So think along that line of where you might want to have those weights on there. Again, right up in this area, just the aerodynamics of it. some good resources that are out there is Scout Life magazine. It's great. You go down to Google, Scout Life, Pinewood Derby cars, and there's all kinds of articles that have been done out there in scouting in the past on these things. And when you go to, by the way, Scout Life, right? It's the new version of Boys Life, and Scouting Magazine, which is the adult version. There's articles there for us as well. So it's really kind of cool. And you can of course just Google it for Pinewood Derby cars, and there's all kinds of YouTube videos and hints and tips and what people think are the greatest thing about these things. Here are some of my other general points of conversation. As I said, it's important that the kids are having fun, and we have the competition. And it is a competition. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of first, second, third, not a big fan of everybody wins. Everybody's got to, try and work. But there should be other competitions going on in your unit and in the district and wherever else these go. There should be the adult division, because we like to have fun too, right? We like to have fun. We want to compete our cars against other adults. Let's face it. If we don't get a chance to do it against the other adults, then some adults may have a tendency to take over their scouts project and do their own. Maybe your pack does a sibling contest. So there's other kids, right, associated with it, but maybe they're not old enough to be in scouting. Maybe they've aged out of the Cub Scout program. Maybe it's a friend, right? Siblings and friends, have them build a car, let them come and race in their own division. Maybe it helps with your recruitment by giving them a chance to race. Maybe the really younger kids, it's not build one, it's Matchbox cars. Who knows? And this is not just a Cub Scout event. There is no reason that, if a pack and a troop are associated or working together, that scouts can't come and have their own event. This is one of the fondest memories Cub Scouts have, is Pinewood Derby cars. And scouts still like to build those things just like adults do. I would encourage that at packs, districts, wherever you may find these races, that they have other versions of the competition. The scouts, the Cub Scouts, older scouts from the troop that are coming back in, maybe among your den chiefs, if you're using the den chief program, sibling programs, friend program, the parent program, or the parent races. A lot of good opportunities in here. Maybe even just leader races against the different den leaders. Who knows? Have a lot of fun with it. The biggest thing of Pinewood Derbies is to have fun. So with that, those are my main parts about the Pinewood Derby as far as the unit, as far as working on a car goes. Now, for other areas, as the pack, this is one of those areas that you should definitely make time to find to have that event, whether there are district races going on or not. Again, this is one of the funnest things to do, and it also works on some requirements in the Cub Scout program. Specifically, a lot of the woodworking build it type things, this works on a construction project. A woodworking project, I'm sorry. It's a chance to get people in together, and not having a track isn't a reason not to do it. A lot of other packs, if you were to reach out to packs that do it, and please, if you don't have one but you'd like to do one, please, and you're not sure of a pack that may have a track that you could borrow or join at theirs, contact the Commissioner Corps, contact a district professional, and we can help work on building a relationship between your unit and that unit. And maybe it's because it takes a little bit to set up that track, and it'd be nice that if it's set up, maybe it stays up for another day and you guys get to race on it the next day, because not everybody can afford or have a track, and there's a wide variety out there. So if you don't have a track, don't make that a reason not to have Pinewood Derby races. We'll help you with that if you need to. The other part of these is, this could be one of the incentives that your unit uses. Though Pinewood Derby cars are not overly expensive, sometimes building it into your unit financial plan so that every scout gets one can help some of those that are less fortunate and maybe not be able to afford them themselves. As a matter of fact, part of our membership incentive this year is giving packs that reach the membership incentive the Pinewood Derby cars. So it's a great opportunity to reach those membership incentives so that, there's one less expense right in there. So, that'd be the things through there. And if you have really questions about how to put these on, you've never done it before, reach out. Again, we can put you in contact with the packs that have done these races, and how do they do it, and what do they set up, and what are headaches that they've seen or problems. And as things are unfortunately changing, because now is January, February's coming, which is when most Pinewood Derby races are going on, February, March timeframe. We're not quite sure what your organization is going to allow at the time, or your meeting location, and we're not sure what the state's going to be allowing at the time. It's a constant change, but just because you can't have a group in an area doesn't mean that you can't have a race. In the previous year and a half, we've seen a lot of units put on virtual races using Zoom, getting them dropped off that the Cub Master picked up, or another member of the unit committee, or assistant Cub Master. They all get dropped off at a certain location. They're all brought in, and you video the race. Whether you run as a live Zoom event, run as a live YouTube event, whether you Facebook Live it, or maybe it's all recorded and then you send it out afterwards. Those are great opportunities that still don't get missed out on, just because you may not be able to bring all of those people in. The other part of that is maybe you can still have in person, but limited on size. And then that's the case, then I would be looking at the very specific setting up timeframes of racers. So lions, tigers, wolves, each one has a time block. Be gracious in the amount of time you're giving yourselves, because it would take a little bit of time for that scout, that family to come in, get cars checked, get them set up, get the races done. Usually it's 2 or 3 races to get a time frame, get it packed up and get them out, and then have enough time for the other group to come in, so they're not completely mixing with one another. So these are ways it can be done. And if you're looking for help and suggestions on how to do that, or maybe how to use some of the electronic capabilities out there, then again, reach out, and we're happy to help you with this. We've worked on a lot of these things, and we're happy to pass on suggestions, and in some cases help where we can. So with that, I've seen there have been some good comments going along on the chat room. I'm not sure if anybody had any other questions or comments or things they'd like to add. Well, then I'd like to thank you for this, and we are going to move into back to our main room.